Good morning, beautiful people. I hope everyone has a beautiful, phenomenal day today, whatever you're doing in this incredible world. This morning I wanted to talk about the empath and the narcissistic duo dynamic. It's it's a lifetime on earth here, and we live in a society that we see a lot of this stuff posted on social media. And they talk about traits, they talk about how a narcissistic has hurt them. And when we talk about this stuff, it's an unhealed wound that we need to go back and we need to process. And the reason why we need to process this is we need to go back to our childhoods, because it stems from our childhood. So when I talk about the childhood wound, it is a wound. So it's two different dynamics. It's the empath and the narcissistic, and how we inherit those traits and why we inherit these traits. And I'm going to talk about having that the mother and the father dynamics in the narcissistic relationship. And then so when we talk about, one moment, sorry, that was just my alarm going off. So when we talk about the narcissistic trait from your childhood wounds, we look at it from a point of how your parents absolutely treated you, but what was their emotional vulnerability, what was their the way that you were treated in that scenario. But it's also how you was treated by your siblings and how you treated your siblings, because it's a trait that it's inherited, and it's a wound, sorry, that is inherited. And when we look at you can be fed from a silver spoon and you can still be a narcissistic person, and when you have a dynamic, so when one of the family members, one of your parents is emotionally available, and the other parent is very controlling and emotionally detached. We talk about detachment from that. So your household, absolutely, your childhood wounds, the way you grew up, absolutely impact your. So you look at it from if one of your parents were very much detached, very controlling, you were very strict, and you inherited that wound. And growing up, even if you were fed with a silver spoon, you can still inherit that narcissistic trait, because it's all about selfishness, it's all about self-absorbed, it's all about self. When you are a narcissistic person and you have an unhealed narcissistic wound and you carry that through life, it's all about self. It's all about projection. So it's all about projection. So how you treat your children, absolutely is a reflection of your childhood wound from your narcissistic trait, and how you can inherit. So when we talk about a narcissistic, so there's always that one parent that's very narcissistic in the relationship, and then there's always that one person that's very empathetic and compassionate. And when we talk about those duos, we talk about the narcissistic person is very controlling, very detached emotionally, very controlling, and when we talk about the parenting skill, we talk about it as you literally can't go anywhere, you can't do nothing, you have to stay home, you have to eat at home, you can't have a life outside of your home, you have to be home between certain times. And when we talk about going over to the other side of the other parent is quite nurturing, she's quite loving, caring, and she will show you that. And when we talk about the childhood wounds, everything stems from our childhood. It comes back to childhood wounds, and this is why we need to process these wounds so that we don't carry those through from generations to generations. And I see a lot of videos, you know, around narcissistic traits and projections, and why is people not talking about why we need to heal those wounds? Because we can no longer afford to carry those wounds through generations after generation. And as an empath, you would know that you were an empath growing up as a child. You were unloved, and your love became part of how you nurtured and looked after your siblings, and how you treated your siblings growing up through your childhood, through your teenage. And when we talk about the opposite of the narcissistic, they don't want to support you they're totally different to you. An empath would help anybody. They would help a complete stranger. They would do that from the goodness of their heart. It's not an external projection. You know, it doesn't come from an external trait. It comes from an internal trait, and that they would help a complete stranger. They would donate. They wouldn't question. They would never question. A narcissistic person would not help a homeless person on the street, would not help a complete stranger on the side of the road, because they just don't have that. It's a wound of having compassion and empathy. And when those two dynamics just don't go, and that is what this is me putting it in a very simple term, human to human. It doesn't work, but it's all unhealed, wounded from your childhood. And this is paramount why we need to go back to our childhood wounds, and we need to work through those little components. You know, I call it packet components for myself, and that is, you know, a beautiful part of my interconnected services with the childhood wounds and the root chakra. You know, so it's, for me, it's about going back to your childhood wounds, and as someone that's healed her childhood wounds, we can work through all those little packets that's stilled in there. And because today, in today's society, I see so much stuff on social media, people talking about, you know, narcissistic relationships, narcissistic. And look, I'm an empath, and I have attracted many narcissistic men in different shades, very much different shades. And I do use my personal experience, and this is what my business stems from. It all stems from life lessons and trauma and grief. And this is the person who I am today. I'm a healer, and I, you know, have the ability to help people heal and understand from a human to human person. But I am who I am. You know, my business stems from a lot of stuff. A lot of wounded stuff, a lot of trauma, a lot of abuse of power. When we talk about abuse of power, we talk about it in a relationship, and it could be very, you know, and this is where we go back right to childhood. Unconditioning for me in my work, in my frame of work, is what we need to do to be able to move forward. So those unhealed wounds, from your childhood wounds, so your empath and your narcissistic, so narcissistic people, wounds, it stems from our childhood, and we can heal those wounds. And that is what my business is about, and that will be launched in Leo season. And I just wanted to share that this morning very, very quickly, in regards to that. And so the program, I think, is 20 weeks, and it's 4 hours, so it is during the day, that one. And you know, community can apply, and community can apply, and community can apply, and organisational referrals are more than welcome, you know. And also just wanted to talk about how we change from our childhood to be able to come into a different. So if we traveled through and we was a you know, as an empath through our life, and it's called molding for me. I call it molding. Like narcissistic people try to mold you. You know, it's about negativity, it's about projection, it's about, you know, they'll paint you in this horrible picture. But you know, with an empath, they know who they are, you know, and that dynamic never works. And it is an energy of light versus dark, absolutely. And throughout life, we can inherit those wounds and traits throughout our life if we don't process that part of that unhealed wound from that moment in our life. So you know, and we will tend to carry that through. But as you work through all your shadow work, you know, I can absolutely help you in this respect. And then we can, you know, healing. It's all healing work. It's all the shadow work, the inner work. So with my childhood wounds, we talk about that. We talk about the root chakra. We do a healing guide. You have homework, absolutely. You know, but in this component here, and I talk about childhood wounds in a very open platform, you know, and what are empath and narcissistic traits, and it's all inherited. Everything is instilled, inherited from our childhood wounds, and we must process that in order to break that generational curse so that we don't carry that through generations after generations and society after society. So, you know, we have to take the responsibility to heal our wounds. It is our responsibility to heal our wounds and break that cycle. If you don't know how to do it, you know, that is what we call them star seeds. They are the people that are meant to be on earth here to help you and teach you and guide you. So that is what I wanted to share this morning, and I'm going to leave it at that now. Let me just check for a moment. Yeah. So yeah, that's the component, narcissistic and empath. Everyone have a beautiful day.